Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. All glories to Bhagavan Shri Krishna, Radha Madhava, and all glories to Srila Prabhupada, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada, by whose mercy we are able to understand the divine words of Bhagavan Shri Krishna. Hare Krishna, guys. So in this video we'll read verse numbers 1, 2 and 3 of chapter 2. Before starting with chapter 2, let's recap what we read in chapter 1. Right? In chapter 1 we saw that the armies of both the side, Kauravas and Pandavas, are gathered on the battlefield Kurukshetra, Dharmashetra, Kurukshetra. They are gathered on the battlefield ready to fight, and then Arjuna sees the armies on the other side. When he sees the armies on the other side, who are consisting of his friends, relatives, fathers and grandfathers, when he sees them, he becomes overwhelmed with compassion, right? And by getting overwhelmed with compassion, he gives his list of reasons to Bhagwan Shri Krishna as to why he doesn't want to go ahead and participate in the war, right? And having given his reasons, list of reasons, he set aside his bow and arrow and sat on his chariot, right, giving his final declaration that no, I don't want to go ahead and participate in the war. No way I'm going to participate in the war, right? And then in the chapter 2 we'll see how Bhagwan Krishna is convincing Arjuna, how Bhagwan Krishna will convince Arjuna with knowledge, with perfect knowledge, to participate in this war of dharma, right? So guys, we'll start with chapter 2, verse number 1. Verse number 1 goes like this. Sanjay uvacha tam tatha kripayavistam ashrupurna kulekshanam vishidantam idam vakyam uvacha madhusudana. Sanjay uvacha, Sanjay said, tam unto Arjuna, tatha thus, kripaya by compassion, avistam overwhelmed, ashrupurna akula full of tears, ikshanam eyes, visidantam lamenting, idam these, vakyam words, uvacha said, madhusudana the killer of Madhu. So Sanjay is saying this to Dhritarashtra. Sanjay said, saying Arjuna full of compassion, his mind depressed, his eyes full of tears, Madhusudana, Krishna spoke the following words, right? So purport given by his grace: material compassion, lamentation and tears are all signs of ignorance of the real self. Compassion for the eternal soul is self-realization, right? The word Madhusudana is significant in this verse. Lord Krishna had killed the demon Madhu, and now Arjuna wanted Krishna to kill the demon of misunderstanding that had overtaken him in the discharge of his duty. No one knows where compassion should be applied. Compassion for the dress of a drowning man is senseless, right? A man fallen in the ocean of nations cannot be saved simply by rescuing his outward dress, the gross material body, right? One who does not know this and laments for the outward dress is called a Shudra, or one who laments unnecessarily, right? Arjuna was a Kshatriya, and this conduct was not expected from him. Lord Krishna, however, can dissipate the lamentation of the ignorant man, and for this purpose the Bhagavad Gita was sung by him. This chapter instructs us in self-realization by an analytical study of the material body and the spirit soul, as explained by the Supreme Authority Lord Shri Krishna. This realization is possible when one works without attachment to fruitive results and is situated in the fixed conception of the real self. So guys, we'll now move to verse number 2. Before reading the verse number 2, let's bow down to all the divine Vaishnavas. Let's bow down to Srila Prabhupada. Because of his mercy, we are able to read and understand the divine words spoken by Bhagwan Shri Krishna. Let's bow down to all the divine Vaishnavas, because of whom we are on the path of bhakti, because of whom we have the determination to be on the path of bhakti, and because of whom we are able to remember Krishna every day of our life. Remember and chant his holy name. Right? Let's bow down to Bhagwan Shri Krishna Radha Madhava. Let's bow down to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Let's bow down to all the divine Vaishnavas. Hare Krishna. So having said this, let's read verse number 2, the words of Bhagwan, right? Goes like this. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Kutastva Kasmalam Idam Vishame Samupasthitam Anarya Jastam Asvargyam Akirti Karamarjuna. Right? Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Kutah, wherefrom, tva, unto you, Kasmalam, dirtiness, idam, this lamentation, Visame, in this hour of crisis, Samupasthitam, arrived, Anarya, persons who do not know the value of life, Jastam, practiced by Asvargyam, which does not lead to higher planets, Akirti, infamy, Karam, the cause of Arjuna, O Arjuna. So Bhagwan says, right? So here, as we see, the verse is mentioned as Shri Bhagwan Uvacha, right? In all other verses we see Dhritarashtra Uvacha, Sanjaya Uvacha, Arjuna Uvacha, but here Bhagwan is speaking, Shri Bhagwan Uvacha, right? What he is saying, what Bhagwan is saying? Bhagwan is saying, my dear Arjuna, how have these impurities come upon you? They are not at all befitting a man who knows the value of life. They lead not to higher planets but to infamy. So purport given by His grace, right? Purport, Krishna and the Supreme Personality of Godhead are identical. Therefore, Lord Krishna is referred to as Bhagwan throughout the Gita. Bhagwan is the ultimate in the absolute truth. The absolute truth is realized in three phases of understanding, namely Brahman, or the impersonal, all-pervasive spirit, Paramatma, or the localized aspect of the Supreme within the heart of all living entities, and Bhagwan, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, this conception of the absolute truth is explained thus. Vadanti tat tatva vidas tatvam yajnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti sabdyate. What this means is that the absolute truth is realized in three phases of understanding by the knower of the absolute truth, right? And all of them are identical. The absolute truth is realized in three phases of understanding by the knower of the absolute truth, and all of them are identical. Such phases of the absolute truth are expressed as Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagwan. These three divine aspects can be explained by the example of the sun, right? So Prabhupada gives a very beautiful example by the help of which we'll be able to understand these three aspects of the absolute truth, right? So what His grace says is that the divine aspects can be explained by the example of the sun, which also has three different aspects, namely the sunshine, the sun's surface, and the sun planet itself. One who studies the sunshine only is the preliminary student, right? One who understands the sun's surface is further advanced, and one who can enter into the sun planet is the highest, right? Ordinary students who are satisfied by simply understanding the sunshine, its universal pervasiveness, and the glaring effulgence of its impersonal nature, may be compared to those who can realize only the Brahman feature of the absolute truth. The student who has advanced still further can know the sun disk, which is compared to the knowledge of the Paramatma feature of the absolute truth, right? Which is there in every living entities, as we read in the purport. And the student who can enter into the heart of the sun planet is compared to those who realize the personal features of the supreme absolute truth. Therefore, the bhaktas or the transcendentalists who have realized the Bhagwan feature of the absolute truth are the topmost transcendentalist, although all students who are engaged in the study of the absolute truth are engaged in the same subject matter. The sunshine, the sun disk, and the inner affairs of the sun planet cannot be separated from one another, and yet the students of the three different phases are not in the same category. Another example I will give to you guys. For example, our parents who are there in our home, right? The children, like we children, we are near to them. We know a lot about them compared to the people who are, let's say, in the society or in the office or their colleagues, right? So we, as children, we know more about our parents than the people who are out there in the society, right? The people who are out there in the society with whom our parents interact, right? Those people know only the outside features of our parents, right? And we, being the children of our parents, we know the nature of our parents, right? Inside out, we know completely what our parents are, right? Which is something the other peoples don't know, right? The other peoples don't have the liberty to know these things, which we, being children of our parents, know, right? So the same thing is being given here, right? The pure devotees, right, they know, right, the personal features of Bhagwan, right, compared to the other students who are only satisfied by studying the external features, right? So we, the pure devotees, they are nearer to Bhagwan Krishna, right? And the same thing is said by Bhagwan Krishna in the later chapters that we'll read in the later chapters. Okay, guys. So that's the analogy. That's how bhaktas are closer to Bhagwan Shri Krishna. So in the purport, Prabhupada says, therefore, the bhaktas or the transcendentalists who have realized the Bhagwan feature of the absolute truth are the topmost transcendentalist. Although all students are engaged in the study of the absolute truth, are engaged in the same subject matter, the sunshine, the sun disk, and the inner affairs of the sun planet cannot be separated from one another, and yet the students of the three different phases are not in the same category, right? The Sanskrit word Bhagwan is explained by the great authority Parasara Muni, the father of Vyasadeva, right? The Supreme Personality who possesses all riches, right? All riches, all strength, all fame, all beauty, all knowledge, and all renunciation is called Bhagwan, right? There are many persons who are very rich, very powerful, very beautiful, very famous, very learned, very much detached, but no one can claim that he possesses all riches, all strengths, etc. entirely. Only Krishna can claim this because he is the supreme personality of Godhead. No living entity, including Brahma, Lord Shiva, or Narayana, can possess opulences as fully as Krishna. Therefore, it is concluded in the Brahma Samhita by Lord Brahma himself that Lord Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. No one is equal to or above him. He is the primeval Lord or Bhagwan known as Govinda, and he is the supreme cause of all causes. Right? So Lord Brahma says, Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchitananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govinda Sarva Karanam, the cause of all causes. Right? Right? So what this means, as we read this verse given by Lord Brahma himself, what this means is that there are many personalities possessing the qualities of Bhagwan, but Krishna is the supreme because none can excel him. He is the supreme person and his body is eternal, full of knowledge and bliss. He is the primeval Lord Govinda and the cause of all causes. Brahma Samhita 5.1. In the Bhagavatam also there is a list of many incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but Krishna is described as the original personality of Godhead, from whom many incarnations and personalities of Godhead expand. Right? From Krishna is the source, he is the source. From the source, all other gods have come forth. Right? So, another beautiful verse that is given here says, Ete chamsha kala pumsha Krishnastu Bhagwan Swayam Indrari Vyakulam Lokam Mridyanti Yuge Yuge. Right? So what this means, all the lists of the incarnations of Godhead submitted herewith are either plenary expansions or parts of the plenary expansions of the Supreme Godhead. But Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself. Right? Bhagavatam 1.3.28. Therefore, Krishna is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Absolute Truth, the source of both the Supersoul and the impersonal Brahman. Right? In the presence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Arjuna's lamentation for his kinsman is certainly unbecoming, and therefore Krishna expressed his surprise with the word Kuta, where from? Right? Where from this weakness has come upon you, O Partha? Such impurities were never expected from a person belonging to the civilized class of men known as Aryans. The word Aryan is applicable to persons who know the value of life and have a civilization based on spiritual realization. Persons who are led by the material conception of life do not know that the aim of life is realization of the absolute truth, Vishnu or Bhagwan, and they are captivated by the external features of the material world, and therefore they do not know what liberation is. Persons who have no knowledge of liberation from material bondage are called non-Aryans. Although Arjuna was a Kshatriya, he was deviating from his prescribed duties by declining to fight. This act of cowardice is described as befitting the non-Aryans. Such deviation from duty does not help one in the progress of spiritual life, nor does it even give one the opportunity to become famous in this world. Lord Krishna did not approve of the so-called compassion of Arjuna for his kinsman. So guys, now we'll move to verse number 3. Right? Verse number 3 goes like this. So in the verse number 3 we see Lord Krishna is giving left and right to Arjuna. So verse number 3 goes like this. Klaibyam masma gama partha naitatvaya upapadyate shudram hridaya durbalyam tyaktva tistha parantapa. Will read again. Klaibyam masma gama partha naitatvaya upapadyate shudram hridaya durbalyam tyaktva tistha parantapa. Klaibyam, importance. Masma, do not. Gama, take to. Partha, O son of Pritha. Na, never. Etat, this. Tvai, onto you. Upapadyate, is befitting. Shudram, pity. Hridaya, of the heart. Durbalyam, weakness. Tyaktva, giving up. Utishtha, get up. Krishna is motivating. Right? Arjuna, give up this weakness and get up. Right? Param tapa, O chastiser of the enemies. So Krishna Bhagavan says, O son of Pritha, do not yield to this degrading impotence. Right? It does not become you. Give up such petty weakness of heart and arise, O chastiser of enemy. Right? So purport given by His grace. Arjuna was addressed as the son of Pritha, who happened to be the sister of Krishna's father Vasudeva. Right? Therefore, Arjuna had a blood relationship with Krishna. If the son of a Kshatriya declines to fight, he is a Kshatriya in name only. And if the son of a Brahmana acts impiously, he is a Brahmana in name only. Such Kshatriyas and Brahmanas are unworthy sons of their fathers. Therefore, Krishna did not want Arjuna to become an unworthy son of a Kshatriya. Arjuna was the most intimate friend of Krishna, and Krishna was directly guiding him on the chariot. But in spite of all these credits, if Arjuna abandoned the battle, he would be committing an infamous act. Therefore, Krishna said that such an attitude in Arjuna did not fit his personality. Right? Arjuna might argue that he would give up the battle on the grounds of his magnanimous attitude for the most respectable Bhishma and his relatives, but Krishna considered that sort of magnanimity mere weakness of heart. Such false magnanimity was not approved by any authority. Therefore, such magnanimity or so-called non-violence should be given up by persons like Arjuna under the direct guidance of Krishna. So guys, in the next video, we'll continue from verse number 4. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.